Hey everybody, Sean Kitzman here from Sustainable Coaching Practices. I've kind of started this business podcast that I've called the Off Meta Business Podcast. And I'm really interested in hearing people's stories that have been in the industry for a while and have built unique practices. Today I have on the other side of the camera, Melinda Lou, who's in Connecticut. She's been a massage therapist. How long have you been a massage therapist for, Melinda?
16 years.
16 years. If your massage therapy practice was a person, it could drive. That's pretty cool. Right? Tell me about you. Tell me about where do you live? Tell me about, I see you have a plant in the background. You have cats, dogs. Tell us a little bit about you.
My personal life versus my professional life?
Yeah, let's start there.
Okay. I'm 37. I live in New Canaan, Connecticut, which is just an hour outside of Manhattan, Fairfield County. And I've been here 10 years. Prior to that, I was in Los Angeles for 7 years, but I'm originally born and raised in Orlando, Florida. I do have a dog. My dog is a Shih Tzu mix. I do not have children, and I am single. That's my personal life.
There you go. Cool. So how did you get from Orlando to LA?
I had a wonderful opportunity. My mentors opened a wellness center in Los Angeles, and they invited me out to work with them as their apprentice. So I wasn't really doing anything in Orlando other than odd jobs at the time. I was teaching yoga. I was working at Whole Foods Market. I actually got fired from Whole Foods Market.
Did you bring in McDonald's? How do you get fired from Whole Foods?
It's funny because I'm really an embodied entrepreneur, and I love doing things that I love. And I've always been told, whatever you do in life, be passionate about what you do. So I can't for the life of me make myself do something that I hate. And I hate scooping food and putting it in plastic containers. So I would show up late or I wouldn't show up. I was a very irresponsible employee and they fired me.
It's really funny because we have a number of different similarities. So I apprenticed with someone for 3 years. And while I did move across the country, I started with her when she co-owned a business, and then she moved across town. Town wasn't very big.
Okay.
But she moved across town and I followed her over there. I also have a background in grocery retail. So I grew up in a grocery store as a kid. My mom worked for a grocery store. And so the first 3 years, 16 to 19, I worked in the store. And then from 19 to 21, 22-ish, I was a merchandiser for a beer distributor. So kind of interesting how, you wouldn't think that there would be some similarities. So Whole Foods cans you,
yes.
And then you moved to LA.
Yes, I did.
So
and it was just the gut feeling of this is a big opportunity. This is going to change my life. Yeah. It really did. That's an understatement. It blew my mind repeatedly, and I was just on this new path, and I'm really grateful for the apprenticeship. I mean, it's one of the best ways you could possibly learn the healing arts. I mean, school is great and it gets us our license, but when you're really going to study under a master, it just speeds up your development. You don't have to do so much guesswork and sort of making mistakes and being awkward. I mean, there is some of that naturally in your beginning years right out of school, but basically when you're under someone's wing, they just fast track you and they try to get you up to their level as fast as possible. And so it's really powerful.
Yeah, I wish that more people did that. And I wish that more massage therapists were open to that.
Yeah, I'm open to it right now. I feel like a craving to train and bring someone along in my practice.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a really powerful experience, because you have someone you can ask questions to, hey, this is what happened in the session. What do I do? How would I handle this differently the next time? Or I found this. What the hell is this? and what could I possibly do with it next time? Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing. I think that, but also like, I think being a mentor, being a mentor is a real big responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And, if people aren't ready to take that on, then obviously they shouldn't do it. But when it's done well, you can really, like you said, you can really fast track and get through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you apprenticed. What were the things that you really took away from it? When you think back upon it, what were the things that you really felt like were important lessons for you that helped you to succeed when you moved from LA to Connecticut?
Mm. I hope that I can articulate
Sure.
all of the takeaways and the power of that whole experience. It really just was an important, meaningful part of my life. That entire 5 years that I was their apprentice, and in 2 years I took over their practice and was
Mm-hmm.
working on my own. But those 5 years I was their apprentice. Well, it's interesting because they set the bar for me, and it was a really high standard of excellence. But I
Sure.
kind of didn't know that until then I got out of Los Angeles, and then I was able to contrast and compare. And I realized, oh my gosh, my mentors and teachers were just extremely high level healers. And
Mm-hmm.
so I saw, basically miracles happen with their clients. So, they were doing various types of body work, including myofascial release and acupressure and some deep tissue and some stretching. But they were really doing a lot of energy healing too.
Sure.
That's just the level of development that they were at. They were just very evolved people. And like I said, I was 21 years old. I kind of just thought everyone was this high level and amazing, and that the whole field would be like that. And then I realized, wow, the standards are much lower generally. When I say miracles were happening, like women with fibroids would be like completely gone. The fibroids would be gone after 4 sessions.
Wow.
Someone like sprained their ankle, and in one session, like it was completely healed within like an hour. Like just amazing miracles like that. They had so many transformations. It was a combination of energy healing, body work, also lifestyle coaching, also like spiritual transformative work. So it was just a lot more than massage, is what I'm trying
Sure.
to say. And that's also what helped me see that the lifestyle and the philosophy goes with the massage and the body work. So to me, I never really had that compartmentalization of just massage and body work being like the piece of the pie that I was only looking at. I was right away taught that massage and body work was a huge, like just a piece of this whole pie, including all these many aspects. And so that's another reason why I feel so lucky, because I feel like that isn't really taught anymore. The spirituality is stripped out of our healing work. The heart and soul, sort of the possibilities of miracles, the lifestyle of a body worker and a healer, just all of that I feel like is so integral for me. That's how I immediately was introduced. And that's why I feel like what makes me stand out even now is that I kind of kept a lot of the spiritual philosophy, the lifestyle of a healer. And while, I'm not performing miracles like they are, I never got to that level yet, but in my own way, I feel like I've been able to have transformations on the table that were more than, I guess, your average therapist. And I do think that's what makes my work stand out, even still today, but I am still evolving and growing.
So the other interesting thing too is you go from Orlando to LA, and you go into an environment and a market that really accepts that philosophy and lifestyle.
Yes,
And
it's cultural there.
yeah, and that's such a critical component, that people the people that you worked with and mentored you, I mean, they obviously were smart enough business people as well. Because you
Oh
see
yeah,
people try to set
big
this thing
time.
up in the middle of nowhere, right? And it fails. Well, gee, I wonder why. You know, like, um, but they were aware enough of like, okay, well, you know, we will do well in this situation. That's a understanding your market and what your market will accept. And if it really calls to you that much, then understanding as well, like, well, maybe I have to move, right? Maybe what I want to do isn't the right place. And that's super hard too. I mean, like, I don't care what age you are, you know, people say, oh, it's easy when you're 21. Moving across country when you don't know anybody isn't easy at any time.
True.
So, yeah, so you're there for 7 years. You know, it sounds to me like you really were able to get your feet wet and get a really good handle on your work and kind of how to be a professional
Yes.
and, you know, all of those things. So then you, decide that, well, one cross country trip wasn't good enough, so we might as well do another one. And you moved to Connecticut.
Well, that story is a little different because this is where the story takes a little bit of a turn. You know, I took over the practice and I had a business partner who was my ex-boyfriend. Oh, right away. That is
Another similarity.
it started okay.
Yep.
You know, we're like, we're doing this. We both really wanted to be business owners, and I was the best person to take over the practice because all the clients already knew me. Anyways, we did great the first year. Honestly, we did very well, and then the second year, things started falling apart with our relationship. Number one. Number two, it was 2008, and the economy wasn't great at that time. Number three, we were in Glendale. Glendale was becoming primarily Armenian.
Uh-huh.
And so when we were doing marketing to get new clients coming in, it was almost all Armenian. And that's a very particular culture that likes to support each other. So because I wasn't an Armenian, they didn't really want to support my business. So that was kind of a cultural, talk about location being an important thing. You know, even though I was a great practitioner, I was not Armenian. And so therefore, I couldn't really market to that group. And they were pretty much buying out all the businesses one by one. They were taking over the whole area. So it just wasn't a great, there were so many things against me. I felt like I was swimming upstream. I was exhausted. I totally burned out.
Sure.
And so we ended up closing the doors, which was like the saddest, most awful time ever.
But you know, I've closed a business. Well, I've closed a business because I moved, and I've actually closed a business myself. I had a martial arts school for about 9 years. It was small, which is why it closed. But you know, I've closed a business and I know what that is. And
It's like a baby, like,
oh, it's so hard, man.
It's so hard. I was pretty devastated after that. But anyway, I was seeing a new guy, a new boyfriend at this point, and he wasn't really working. The business closed. I'm like, let's just pack up our cars and just drive across the country. And we really didn't have a destination, Sean. We were total hippies. I had my massage table strapped to the roof of my car, my crappy Nissan Sentra, with bungee cords, mind you, and everything I owned, which wasn't much, in my like really shitty Nissan Sentra, which like broke down multiple times as we drove to upstate New York. And we got there and just stayed at his parents in Utica, New York.
Uh-huh.
Utica, New York is not a great place for holistic arts. I think there was one tiny little wellness center and they were struggling because they couldn't get anyone to do anything there. Most people went to the casino and gambled or drank beer and ate Italian food. And that was pretty much it. I think I did chair massage for a poker night. And I was like, how did my life devolve to this? I was like, really, Melinda? Wow. Like, this is where your life is at. It was bad time, Sean, in my life.
So this was what year was this?
10 years ago.
So 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the economy's still really struggling. And then you go to
another Yeah.
Then you really go to an area where there's no economy at all, and you see a really struggling economy, because LA can kind of lie, right? I mean, like, it can
Right.
put on like the show and the tinsel and all the rest of that
That's
crap,
true.
but like, you go to upstate New York, or you go to those, those areas where the economy has left a long time ago. And
Mhm.
so, a long time ago, I mean, upstate New York is, man, oh man, it's pretty
It
rough.
looks like it was bustling in like the 50s maybe or the 60s, and then it just like closed and it's like a ghost town. It's pretty creepy.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Michigan.
Oh.
Detroit, Flint, Kalamazoo,
Mhm.
like all of those areas. So, I mean, it's funny because one of the reasons that I, have some of the angles that I have with my coaching practice is, uh, a lot of what happened to me and what happened to my ex-business partner and I, during that recession. And, so I think it's a really helpful thing though, because when people like, we live here in Minneapolis, and I'm going to say this, and if there's somebody that's watching from Minneapolis, they're going to get upset, but I don't care. So people in Minneapolis, if they've had a practice in the last 20 years, don't really understand struggle. They don't understand what it means to see your economy like completely collapse. And then what do you do? How do you keep the doors open? What
Right.
what really matters to clients?
Mhm.
And so, that's such an important thing. So, I think it's really good for people to be able to see those areas where, like I went to Milwaukee this weekend, to visit my cousin. And well, Milwaukee's in a really big turnaround. It's still an old Rust Belt state. I mean, like, man, you go from Minneapolis to Milwaukee, and woof, there are very different people there. You know,
Yeah.
so you
Mhm.
go to Utica, you do the poker night, and you're like, well, but I'm out of here, right?
At this point, I was willing to go like literally anywhere else in the country. I said we have to leave here. Like, there's nothing for us here. So he got a call from his cousin who was working in Stamford, Connecticut, and said there was a job opening for him there. And I said, great, let's go.
Right.
Because I just was so anxious to leave Utica. We had only been there a month, it wasn't even that long,
Sure.
but that was too long for me. So I didn't really know anything about Stamford, Connecticut. And I was just willing to try it out because there was an opportunity there.
Sure.
Although, in my mind, when I left California, because of the struggle, right, because of the pain, I said, I just want to go somewhere where I can do what I do, and I want to feel appreciated and respected, and I want to feel like it's easy to make money. I just wanted it to be easier. I didn't want it to be so hard because I felt like I was swimming upstream. And by the way, I do think I could have weathered the storm in LA if I wasn't constantly fighting with my ex-boyfriend slash business partner, if the whole area wasn't getting taken over by, culture that didn't embrace me. I feel like I could have, rode the storm, but there were just too many things against me.
Yeah, I
So,
think I think also talking about, cultures and different cultures is really important as well, because I think that you really have to. It's such a well, it was a bad experience at the time, but it's a really good experience to like know, like, man, I just don't fit here any longer. And sometimes that happens.
mhm.
Sometimes you either grow to a point of, I need to move on, and this whatever environment I'm in, doesn't fit me or doesn't suit me, or, wow, I've kind of looked at the area and this, and it's just not the same. And my expression of my work doesn't fit this place any longer. So I have to move, I have to do something
Yeah,
different. And
it
man, does that take a lot of guts, I mean,
does.
it does. It's really super humbling. And the other thing too, so, I've had people that, will ask me about, having a relationship with a partner, because, I'm pretty open about, I had a business with my ex-wife, you know,
Mhm.
and I knew really early into the practice starting, that we weren't, competitive or compatible
Mhm.
business wise in the way that we thought about business. Um, and because I had to fight so damn hard to get clients, you know,
Right.
like as a, you know, mid 20-year-old guy, I had to fight so damn hard to get clients. We weren't in an area where, you know, there was a lot of male therapists. When I moved out of Brighton, the town that my practice was in, Michigan, for 15 years, I was the longest standing male therapist by 5 years.
Wow.
And so, and there was one guy who came before me, but he sold his practice and moved to Arizona. I don't even know what he's doing now. So there wasn't a lot of guys in the area. So, you know, I had to fight so damn hard to get clients. And then I, you know, had to fight so damn hard to keep them. And, so, you know, I think it's a really hard thing to have a practice with someone that you're in a relationship with, because that's, I'm honestly convinced that had we not had the practice together, we probably could have salvaged a lot of the relationship, but it was such a big stress on our relationship. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I would not still be with that person.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that my ex and I would still be together either, but
Right.
I think it would have been a lot easier, because we didn't have the stress of the relationship, you know. You know, we, at some point in time, we had talked about having kids, and our business had just gotten stable, and I was like, why are we going to tell me why we would have kids again? We're now not getting eviction notices. I mean, like, we're now able to pay the bills and have money left at the end of the month. Like, you go on maternity leave, which we don't have anything set aside for that, because we didn't have anything set aside for, you know, the beans and weenies we're eating right now, you know?
Right.
So, you know, so I think that was also a stress on the relationship. So yeah, I think, you know, the other thing that I think, is massage therapists and as coaches, I think it's really important to have a bit of that personal touch in your story, because, I mean, like, man, those are some legit things that you went through to get to where you're at today. But people just want to look at where you're at. You know, they don't want to look at, you know, where you came from. And oftentimes we don't want to talk about those things because we don't feel like it's as relevant as, but it's super relevant.
It is, because like I said, when I left California, I was clear. I want things to be easier. I want people to respect me, appreciate me. I want to feel embraced by my community.
Sure.
And I was clear that I wanted to be in private practice. I want to be by myself.
Sure.
I want to be by myself in a room, low overhead, no partners. So I was crystal clear about that when I left California. And so anyway, fast forward, we end up in Stamford, Connecticut. And I just remember I needed to get some money coming in right away, because I'm like, it's going to take a while to start getting clients. And I just thought my California license was going to transfer to Connecticut. It did not. So I had to get
California had licensure at the time?
It had like
certification, right?
Each little town had its own requirements. So the Glendale area had a minimum of like 150 hours, which is nothing. But because my training from my mentors and teachers was so robust, you know, I was a great practitioner despite the very minimal hours of massage school. Anyway, so in Connecticut, I had to teach yoga classes, and I had to work food service. And then I found a loophole. I was able to work under somebody else's license. So I had to work for a wellness center. Meanwhile, I had already been working for myself for years in California. This was really painful. I mean, this was so humbling. It's just like my ego was like cut down to size for like the next, you know, couple years. I eventually went back to massage school for 1,000 hours in Connecticut because I didn't want to do anything else. I'm like, I'm not going to go to Chinese medicine school. I'm not going to go to physical therapy school. I'm not going to be a naturopath. I want to do massage. That's what I do. And so it was a hard decision. I'm not going to lie. Because I remember going to the open house, and the woman was like, on the first day of massage school, we're going to learn how to set up a massage table. I was like, oh my God.
I'll teach you how to get your table across the country on a Nissan Sentra. Like I can do massage table. I can do massage tables set up like at a master's level.
I know. But I was just like, oh my God, I'm really doing this. So I did it. But it was such a great experience because going to school, that's when I was able to contrast and compare my training with the training that was going on. It had just gotten bought out by Steiner Education Group.
Uh-huh.
I heard when it was privately owned, it was a phenomenal school. And then, you know what happens when there's a corporate takeover. It's really hard to keep the quality of instruction because I'm certain that the teachers were their income was cut in half with the corporate takeover. So there was a lot of teachers kind of getting in and out. There's a lot of turnover, except for the really great ones that were there out of the goodness of their heart.
That just love to teach.
It's like a mission. It's a calling.
Sure.
And so they're really, I don't want to make it all sound bad. There were some wonderful teachers that I did learn some wonderful things from those teachers. And then the other ones were kind of rotating in and out. But I learned at that point that I wanted to teach what I felt like was missing in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like they weren't really preparing therapists for the real world. And so at that point, there was like a little something inside of me that was turned on.
Sure.
Someday I'm going to teach.
Yeah, you recognized there was something in the market that there needed to be coaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then once I got my license, I was like, peace out at the wellness center. Thank you for the opportunity to get on my feet. I'm out of here. And then
tell me about what you saw because I have, we've talked long enough and that I have lots of opinions.
Yes.
But I have some thoughts on business in those things in massage school. Now, I went to school, back when Fred Flintstone was still running around. So I'm sure that a lot of the business stuff has changed, but you've been more recent in school. Not that it was super recent, but so what did you see? What did you feel wasn't preparing the students? What was the difference?
Well, in terms of business,
yeah,
it's really short on marketing. There really was not even close to enough information about marketing. We designed a logo and made a business card.
And made a business plan. Got to get your business plan together because everybody wants to see it. Because it's 1952.
It was just, there wasn't a lot of real world advice. I mean, it was like how to set up your sole proprietor or your LLC. I mean, it was kind of just get started, which is fine, but it wasn't like really geared towards if you're going to be in private practice. Because I do think also at that time, Steiner really wanted to have therapists go right into the franchises after they graduate.
Sure.
So I'm not saying there's like a conspiracy, like they don't want to teach business, so you don't know what you're doing. I don't think that's happening. I just do think that even the instructors had never really had a private practice themselves. So I just think the knowledge is limited. That's all. It just wasn't robust.
Yeah, I think that, so here's my own less than humble opinion on this. I think that massage schools, I don't think massage schools have any business in teaching like advanced business because you're going to school to become a massage therapist, whether or not you get out into practice and actually have a private practice. And also, again, back in, 97, when I went to school, the information changed so much differently. When I remember buying a Yellow Pages ad and it working, right? Like I remembered, like that was when I started practicing in 2000. We had a huge Yellow Pages ad, and people called all the time, and so that was a very cost-effective way. Well, now shit, Facebook algorithms change on the minute.
Yes.
So if you attempt, I have 3/4 of a book written. And I chose not to finish it. And I chose to actually go online and start to document, because the thing that I was really concerned about was in 5 years, the information that I'm talking about that I've used to build a practice isn't going to be relevant any longer. Hell, in 6 months, it might not be relevant. I mean, think about it. Like today, when I was starting to write the book, Instagram wasn't even a thing. Like Instagram was almost dead because Facebook hadn't bought it out yet.
Right.
You know, it was a picture platform. You know, it was for photographers and food people and people who wanted to post pictures of their Shih Tzus. You know, like, I mean, you know, like it wasn't a business platform. It was very niche-y business platform, you know, like Tumblr would have been a better idea. Right. And so, so I think that it's really hard for schools to teach those things. And
that's true.
I get into dialogues all the time with school owners that hate me because I say this, and I'm not discrediting them. I don't think that, but I just don't think it's their place.
I mean, they're supposed to help therapists get their license and pass MBLEX, and they do that. I mean, because literally that's a hard job in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think that's where the space is for people like you and I. And I feel like it's a place where, you know, those of us that have been in practice for a while and had some semblance of success, whatever that success means to you, right? Because I think that's also a very arbitrary moving target. But some semblance of success, and they can put together, they're compassionate and caring enough to where they want to help the industry, because there's a lot of people in the industry that don't want to help the industry, right? They just want to sit in their office and don't talk to anybody and, you know, be pissed off because someone else is successful. That's a lot of the industry, unfortunately. You know, so I think that there's space for the, you know, people like you and I to come in and help people and create content, you know, and then build coaching platforms. I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of coaching, when I got my license, my mentors, they had moved into coaching, life coaching.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, they're so multidisciplinary. It was like life coaching, it was like spiritual coaching, it was success coaching. They're very talented people. So they reached out to me and they said, would you like us to coach you to build your practice and to build your career? And I was like, I had never, like, I'm like over the phone, you know, like, because I was so used to working with them in person that I'm like, how are we gonna, like, I didn't understand the coaching dynamic and the business and the, you know, the world of coaching, but I just obviously have an amazing history with them. And I'm like, of course I want to work with you.
Trust level is high.
And they, you know, at that point I just got my license and then they called me. It was more like a year had gone by and I was sort of hustling to get in-home clients. I was doing chair massage at Whole Foods. I rented this little crappy
They didn't know that you'd been fired before Whole Foods?
This is like a Whole Foods somewhere else in the country. I keep gravitating to Whole Foods. But anyway, I was doing chair massage there. And actually that worked really well because the clients immediately started booking me for in-home sessions. So I had sort of worked my way up to like $4,000 a month. And I was like, damn, I'm doing pretty good. I was like very proud of myself.
In a year and a half, that's really damn good.
I was like, I'm like doing really well. And they're like, you probably should be earning double that in the area that you're in and considering the experience that you have and how talented you are. And I was like, what? Like, like $8,000 a month? I had never made that kind of money before. And my mindset wasn't open to that kind of success, but they were like, of course you can. Don't you know where you are? And don't you know who you are?
Right.
And so I was like, well, okay, this seems like a big stretch, but I just trusted them. I believed them. They believed in me. And then they just started like telling me what to do. Like, you know, like go do this. So we had a plan and I just started taking action and I just did everything they told me to do. I was very coachable.
Well, that's one of the things that as I've gotten to know you a little bit more, because we spent, I don't know, maybe about an hour and a half talking, you know, online and offline. One of the things that I really I'm coming to see and admire and respect about you is that you are a student.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you've made it previously, you're still a student. And I think that's
I
such
still am.
yeah, of course. That's why you're successful, And so, but I think that's a really important thing because, a lot of times people get to the mountaintop, and then they don't realize there's other mountaintops to scale.
There's a lot of mountaintops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, long story short, they got me to earn six figures, right?
Right.
So 6 figures is really 8,500 a month plus. And it was just, how do you even describe that feeling?
Life changing.
I mean, it really it takes you into another paradigm. It rewires you. You're a completely different person at that point, because to be the person who earns 4,000 a month and to be the person who earns 8,500 a month, I'm like a completely different person. I had to like walk through so many challenges and face so many fears and be uncomfortable like the whole time. But then when you get there, you're like, I did this, and it was so satisfying,
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it was really like 10,000 a month, 12,000 a month, and raising my rates and selling higher end packages. And then I was selling these big programs of massage, health coaching, and yoga, where I was taking a client through a 6-month wellness program, selling that for $4,800. And
Sure.
I was just they kept pushing me to like go to the next level, go to the next level. And talking about location, I am in a location where I can do that because I was completely embraced by this community. Health and wellness was booming. It was funny because when I got here 10 years ago, there were just a couple yoga studios, there were a couple health food cafes. It was still kind of new. And I'm like, you guys are way behind,
Right.
versus California. I had some clients even tell me, they're like, you're not from here, are you? We can tell you're from California or someplace. And I was like, how did you know? But anyway, it's a sophisticated culture. Everyone's highly educated. There's a lot of money from Manhattan, Wall Streeters, corporate executives, entrepreneurs. So it really is like an amazing place to thrive as a body worker. My intention that I set leaving California, I manifested.
Sure.
Completely. So I have been earning over 100,000, really 125,000 at this point in my practice for the last 6 years. And yeah, it seems like it's easy now, which is crazy.
Sure. So, what would be one thing that you would suggest to a therapist who's maybe at the place that you were at before? Like, actually 4,000 a month for a massage therapist is pretty damn good. So,
Yes.
What would you suggest to someone who was there before? What would be one thing that you could do, to kind of put you on that track of like, okay, so, maybe the next goal is how do I make 6 a month, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, usually you start with a rate increase as the easiest start there.
And so many people are resistant to it.
It's like, well, how do I make more money? Like, just
charge more.
Yeah, just charge more.
How about this? How about you create this super fancy package that you discount down to no profit margin and try to sell that a lot, because that's what people do, like it's the craziest thing. Like, how do you, like what? I suck at math and I know that doesn't work, So yeah, good. Charging more. Okay. So let's talk about the psychology of that a little bit.
There's so much mindset to that.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that. Actually, I have the feeling that most people are undercharging, like generally speaking.
Hell yeah.
I've only talked to a few therapists who were actually overcharging.
Sure.
Only two. And
sure.
like I don't know how many now that I've talked to over the years, but there's just a feeling that they were trying to put themselves at the top, and charge a lot, but they couldn't get anyone to pay that price. And this just tells me they really didn't own it, and they weren't really confident about it, and they didn't really feel like they were worth it.
Sure.
but that's rare. Most people, most therapists are undercharging, and they really should be charging more, and they deserve it, and they would own it, and people would pay it.
Preach, sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I was
No.
undercharging
Sure.
here even.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you have to know well, because here's what this is a funny thing. I had just had a coaching call a couple weeks ago with this guy who was new out of school. Someone I knew bought him a couple coaching packages or a couple coaching sessions with him.
Okay.
And he starts talking about, yeah, really? I know, really nice. I was like, wow, that's cool. That's a good friend. Where was that? I would have done that. Hell, that person could buy me a lot of stuff. I'd be down. But one of the things that massage therapists do is they don't think that they actually, I can't afford that. So why would somebody else pay that?
That is so true. That is so true. Or they wouldn't be willing to pay that much themselves for a good session. And because they're not willing to do it, they don't think anyone else would be. That's kind of what you just said.
Yeah, because they're really crappy at self-care, and most massage therapists are, right? They don't go out and get any work done. So how can they? Or they borrow or they barter it. They trade it, and they don't understand the value of going out and paying for something. I finally have a really good person that I trade movement therapy with, right?
Okay.
But before I moved from Michigan, I was paying people because I didn't want, to give someone, I didn't want to have an unbalanced relationship with the person that I'm working with. I wanted to be able to go in, lay on the table, get work done, shut my brain off, get what I needed to get worked on, and get out the door, and not have to worry about whether or not that person's going to come and cancel last minute for their session. And now we have this weird idea, right? Like, oh, well, now I'm up one, and now I have to wait a couple weeks because you've got to get in. No, it's got to be about you,
Yeah, I mean, I do think you can have a nice bartering relationship with people, but I think there is something to like your belief about how do you expect people to pay for your work if you're not willing to pay for someone's work? It's like, it's that internal and external sort of feedback loop, right? It's a belief system. So if you don't believe it, how do you think others are going to believe that?
Correct.
So, I've paid for many a session. I used to say that I've spent more money on body work than my clients have.
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an important thing. I think it's an important thing that because it still keeps you the student, right? Mm-hmm. Then you become a client. Then you become on the other end of the hierarchy, right? Those are really super important things to have happen. So, yeah, increasing fees. There's a huge, psychology to that. That people, like you said, like you so very well said, you deserve it. You're worth it. Because you're not. And the thing that people don't realize is like they get so scared. And if you increase it by $10 or $20 an hour, and your client sees you once a month, they're only paying an extra $120 to $240 a year. You are not taking away their kids' college education.
Right.
I mean,
like big drama in people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other side of that extra 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever it is that you're charging, that increase that you do, man, oh man, if you've got 20 clients, and that's like an extra $10 a week or $200 a week now, right? Yeah. That's an extra $800 a month. That's an extra 90, that's a lot of money at the end of the year. That's almost, $9,000, $9,500 a year. That's a huge difference.
They do not teach that in schools.
No, that's really crappy Sean math. But it still works. It's
like every business, the grocery stores raise their rates on products. They're doing it in little tiny increments, so you don't really notice it that much, but it's just a standard business practice. And as you grow and develop as a practitioner and you take more training and you have greater results on the table, you should feel like, what I notice, therapists, when they start to get to that resentment feeling.
Right.
Once they start to get the resentment feeling, I should be charging more. They really need to start getting serious about raising the rate soon, because if they go like a whole year with that resentment feeling, you start to burn out.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like you hate showing up to work, because
Yeah.
you feel like you're worth more, and you are.
Well,
But no one's going to give you a raise like your boss, especially private practice people, right? So it's like, you are your boss. You should take yourself aside and say, hey, you're doing a great job. You deserve a raise this year.
yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's super important. I mean, like, it's, and where else? Like, you wouldn't stay at a job that didn't give you a raise for 5 years. Nobody on
Right.
the face of the planet would do that. And if you did, then obviously the money that you were making wasn't important to your household, or you're in an area where that's the best that you can do. So now
Right.
you have a choice you have one of two options. You either deal with that and make that work, or you move. I mean, like, those are your two options. Like a lot of those people in Utica, right? I mean, like, that's the options that they're faced in.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if I think about myself building a practice in Utica, I'd have to adapt to the culture, first of all. I'd have to really like wire myself in and get into the mindset and just like the behaviors and the culture. Um, I was just thinking I someday may move to Hawaii. And
Sure.
like I already have like the perfect business name and the business idea of what I would do to fit in with the culture of Hawaii. I know Hawaii culture very well. My family lives there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, but it would not be what I'm doing right here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
I have a practice that's very conducive for Connecticut culture.
Right.
So I think sometimes I was thinking about this today. Some therapists, they create their practice for themselves. Well, I like this name. I like this wall color. Like, and at this point, I'm thinking like, what is the community I'm going to set up shop in like?
Right. Right.
Like the wall color I chose is like pretty much the same color in everybody's home around here. It's like a gray, blue, everything like is like a light, airy colors. But I mean, I have some of my personal touch in here that makes it Melinda, but this is like the Connecticut version of Melinda's practice. And if I were to move somewhere like Utica or Hawaii, I would adapt to the culture and what I
Sure.
think those
Well, and
people want.
in some of those cultures, like Utica, you could adapt as much as you want, but you might not still get in.
I don't want to adapt to a Utica culture.
But I mean, like, you could adapt as much as you want, but you might still might not get in, or it might take you a long, long time.
You
And
know what I have to do there is pioneer. And I do have a lot
yeah,
of respect for people that are like preaching and trying to convert people to drink the Kool-Aid. And like, you were a pioneer for male body workers, right?
yeah,
I was not a pioneer when I got here. People were already getting massages like for
sure,
their whole life.
sure.
So it was pretty easy, honestly.
Yeah,
I didn't have to hard sell anybody.
yeah. It's but saying that, you really have to figure out, what your value and what your offering is to your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I think there's a real honest conversation. I think you have to have the real honest conversation of, like, maybe you don't belong there. I mean, like, as hard as that is to talk about, and as hard as that is to say, like, sometimes, like, I remember in the early 2000s, man, I was trying to figure out how to do Thai massage in the area that I was in. There was no way in hell that was going to fly, right? There was zero. I've had the idea of what I'm currently doing now since almost the beginning of my practice. But I wasn't in an area where that initially, when I first started practicing, and also I wasn't very good too, let's be honest. But
Okay.
I wasn't in an area where it was going to accept anything other than massage. And I was talking about it on Facebook Live this morning on my business page. Like, in the beginning, it wasn't come in and let me work on your shoulder. It was come in and let me give you a massage, and then the byproduct of that was your shoulder getting better, right? That's how I had to sell it. It wasn't like, hey, you have a shoulder injury, come on in, I'll take care of that. Oh yeah, cool. No, they had copays back then. They had a $5 copay. They could go to the PT 87 times a week and it would cost them nothing. Because they were on General Motors or Ford or Chrysler. They were on Blue Cross. They had really good insurance plans at the time.
Right.
So that idea that I had, that I wanted to provide people, I had to really go around that. And I think also, like, if it wasn't for the economy like really collapsing and everybody losing their insurance, and then understanding, oh, okay, now I kind of, it wasn't on purpose, but it was just this kind of feeling that I got was like, oh, well, if I can provide people with this now, this makes a lot more sense to them, because now they might have to go pay $15 to $20 to go see the PT, right?
Right.
And then they're still going to go see the PT 2 or 3 times a week, and now that's not much. I'm not charging that much more now, and I get better outcomes. So I think those are important things that people need to kind of look at and recognize. So,
well, like you said, I don't know if you said it just now or earlier when we talked, massage and various forms of bodywork are more mainstream now than they ever have been. And it's not just for the educated, cultured, people who have been around the field. It's pretty much the whole country. And I do think the internet and social media has like expanded everyone's horizons to be exposed to so many things that they weren't exposed to before. Yeah. Which has, and a lot of massage business coaches and massage instructors and people in the field are saying this really is the best time to be a massage therapist
by far. By far,
because it is mainstream. It's not weird anymore.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to be Ida Rolf?
She was a pioneer. So that's why I'm saying I do respect people who pioneer.
Yeah, or Feldenkrais or Alexander or Pilates or Iyengar or any of those real true pioneers. Like the shit I was doing, I was pushing little snow. Like I wasn't moving a whole ton of snow. I mean, crazy. So. I mean, really, but yeah, I think it is important but I think that, like, if you're going to get out and you're going to do the work and you're going to create your own thing, you're going to create your own art, on some level you have to pioneer a little bit, because it's your own individual. Yeah. It's your own individual expression. And that's one of the things that I really, as I thought about our first conversation that we had last week, one of the things that I really enjoyed about our conversation together was that, at the top of both of our minds, even though we have very different expressions of work, your clients would hate me. Like they would not want to come in and do the crazy shit that I do. But there's this passion and desire to help people to understand that their work, their own unique work, actually matters, and it's a really important thing, And I think it's a really important thing that that people hear that. And so that was one of the things that I really took away from our last conversation was like, while we have eerily similar stories and some stories that are a little bit, as people do, there's definitely this passion for helping people figure out what is it that you want to do, and then how can we help you do that?
Right. So I do think as a body worker develops, just like you said so well on the Global Wellness Marketing Summit, I loved this piece of your talk. I mean, I think I already told you I liked so many points in your talk, but the artistry piece, it really is more advanced. I think when someone breaks away from everything they were taught, they break away from the routine and they start to create and they start to improv. It's like in dance. I used to be a professional dancer when I grew up in performing arts. You learn the steps. You were taught choreography, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have to do these exact steps this exact way. But then in college, we got to improv, and I remember one dance audition, they just turned on music and they go dance. And we just had to like make something up in the moment. But I feel like when you get to that point where you've done all the training, you've done all of the classes, you've done so many sessions now, you can break out of the routine and you can start to, in the moment, create and customize a session for a client. That you can utilize all of your tools and techniques. Because, I was trained to do things a particular way, and it took me a while to like break out of it. But once I did, I really started to shine, and I really started to get great results. And I was just very authentic and very unique. And that was made me a standout, because I was doing my own work now. I had to really become an artist.
So, I did something that I hate that I didn't do, which was dig around in your past backstory from when you were younger, because that right there is, I feel like, so my friend Marcia, who I sublease from, she has a performance dance background. She danced in college as well.
Cool.
And so people who have practices like that before they get into business, as a dancer, you have to have a growth mindset.
Yes.
Because the dance is never, the perfect dance on Friday night is not the perfect dance on Saturday night. Because your audience is different. Mm-hmm. The way that your partners are going to interact with you is different. Mm-hmm. The way that the lighting is different. It's not perfect. So you have to adapt to the situation that you have, which is something that you've done incredibly well, which is what I talked to you about, last time. One of the things that I was really impressed by is your ability to adapt to your surroundings and your situations. And I really think that comes from that dance background, from keeping that growth mindset.
You're probably right, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was the peak of my dance, greatness was age 16 to age 19, yeah. Mind you. But I remember the feeling I could walk into any class, didn't matter what kind of dance it was. And I was so trained and I was so in shape that I could just pick it up and I would just feel confident. Like any class I walked into, and that strength, and that sort of, I don't know how to explain it, but I definitely have taken a lot of that, like you said, and put it into performing arts to healing arts. Is an easy transition.
Yeah. Well, so here's the other thing too, that, man, you're really flaming some of my soapboxes. So the interesting thing is that, when you perform at a level like that, and so the hilarious thing is that, and I deal with, I work with mostly athletes in my practice. And when I talk to athletes, and I traveled with a nationally competitive boys soccer team for 3 seasons.
Cool.
And, 10 of the 11 kids played college soccer. Most of them played Division I on some level.
Right.
And the funny thing about it is that, like the kid that went to play juniors, or went to play JUCO, that won a national championship, by the way, at JUCO. The difference between the JUCO program that he was playing in and the Division I was so finite. It was so little that the average person wouldn't have been able to tell if they would have, if those two teams would have met on a pitch with red jerseys and blue jerseys. And so the amount of dedication that it took him to get there, and the amount of dedication that it took you to get to your peak from 16 to 19, the difference between you and the, above average elite mutant human beings that are at the top of the food chain in the dance community is so small for the rest of us. It's big for you guys, but it's so small for the rest of us. And that's one of the things that people don't understand. You don't have to be LeBron James to stand out in your community. You can be the best person in your community and kill it.
Yes, correct.
Right?
Yeah. You know what? Coaching has taught me that, what you're saying, because there have been therapists that I almost didn't work with because I was starting to prejudge them. I don't think they have it. And I don't know if I can push this person. Like my favorite story example of this is a 70-year-old man in Los Angeles. And he was just the cutest little, older man. He might have been 71 or 2 actually. And he was like, I really want to take your program and I really want to, earn more. And I want to grow my practice. And I was like, really? Like, I think someone at that age is starting to slow down.
Sure.
I was like, I'm going to feel bad, like pushing him to work harder and change or adapt. And wow, I was wrong. He blew me away. He still to this day is one of the only mentees I've worked with who like nailed his financial goals every single month, like surpassed them. Because some people like hit a goal and then the next month they like almost get it, but they don't quite get it. Or then they surpass the next one, but then they don't. Like, I haven't had someone like every single month
Sure.
for 6 months in a row, like completely nailed their goal. He was the only one so far, and he blew me away. And like you're saying, he's not a LeBron James. He's like the cutest little older man, but he was able to take all of his focus and discipline and channel it. You didn't have like the energy of a 20-year-old, but the energy he had,
Sure.
he was able to focus it. And now I have had some 20-somethings that had a lot of energy. They could not focus it and they could not discipline themselves to like be consistent. So I thought that was really interesting. I've learned so much
Sure.
from therapists, and I really try not to prejudge anyone now, because you never know what's in someone's heart. You never know what's in someone's body and like how driven they are until like you kind of see what they got.
Yeah. And they don't, I mean, people, they look at, and it's natural as humans, because we want to find somebody that we can look up to and compare ourselves to. But, and I see this in jiu-jitsu, like I train with really good people. And now I don't train at the best gym in the country, but I train at a really good gym. And I get my ass kicked often, right? And then when I go train with people who don't train with the caliber of people that I train with, it's almost comical to me. I'm like, oh wow, this is what it should feel like. This is actually, I'm dealing with humans now, So you don't have to be this superstar standout. You just have to be the best for the people that you really work well with. And if
Right.
you do that, then you'll kill it. Right. I mean, you'll just do so well, and you'll have people who appreciate your work and they value who you are. And, they're not going to, grumble about an increase or $10 or $20,
Right.
Of increasing your session fees. So yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap it up here? I really appreciate your time. I've really, both of our conversations, I've really enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
How can people? I'll put this in the kind of the show notes or the description on the YouTube. But how can people get a hold of you?
So my website is melindalou.com.
Very inventive.
Thank you. I really like my name. I don't think I ever want to change my name ever. melindalou.com.
Uh-huh.
You obviously can look up Melinda Lou, my Facebook business page, and Melinda Lou LMT Mentor on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, again, thanks a lot for taking your time and chatting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I've really appreciated it. If you're out there and you're looking for, if you've listened to me for longer than 15 minutes and decided that, I'm not the talking head for you, I think Melinda's got a great program. She has a lot of great experience. And, I think that one of the things that I want to do is I want to find people, Melinda and I talked about this before, about find people who I resonate well with, and I really think that have the chops to do what they say they're going to do. And I really think that that's Melinda, because if you listen to her story was by no stretch of the imagination an easy story from start to finish to where she's at now. So I think that she has a lot of great experience and a lot of great coaching for you. So
thank you, Sean.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Melinda, have a great day. Thanks much.
You too. Bye.